Welcome back. In this episode of Landmarks Discovered, we had a unique opportunity to explore the personal life of architect Maurice Fatio in visiting 930 South Ocean Boulevard. 930 South Ocean Boulevard was built by Fascio on speculation and was actually the first home that he lived in with his new bride, Eleanor Chase. "930 South Ocean Boulevard was completed in 1929 by Maurice Fatio and is known as Casa Florence. It's located directly across the street from 920 South Ocean Boulevard, another property designed by Fascio a year earlier and known as Casa Alita.
When most people think of a Fascio house in Palm Beach, they automatically think of 920 South Ocean Boulevard. And when we look at the house next door, we see that Fascio wasn't looking to compete with 920 South Ocean. He was really looking to complement it.
And one of the ways that he did that was by using the same building material, which is quarried keystone. And it's really incredible when we look today at these two structures because they are such a great representation of his work and are such a notable entrance to the street via Bellaria, which actually has a total of 7 landmarks on the street designed by Traynor and Fascio. Maurice Fatio was born in 1897 to a prominent banking family in Geneva, Switzerland. He studied at the Polytechnic in Zurich and traveled to the United States in 1920. There he worked under the architectural firm of Harry T. Lindbergh, who was known for his English and Norman-style country houses. A year after starting there, he opened his own practice with William Traynor, an architect at the firm. In 1923, the firm was amongst the 10 busiest in New York, and Fascio himself was voted most popular architect. That same year, Traynor and Fascio established an office in Palm Beach and enjoyed the same success that they had in New York.
A great story about this house is that Fascio built it as the home that Eleanor and him were going to move into after they were married. And it kind of adds an element of romanticism to an already romantic-looking house.
Upon entering Casa Florence, you're greeted by a Romanesque arch that you pass under to enter the principal rooms. The arch has a beautiful fresco of an angel flying above you, painted by the Swedish artist Erik Stocklasa. One of the things that is special to the home is the large size of the loggia, which is 33 feet long and proportionally matches the size of the living room. The size of the loggia speaks to the importance of outdoor space. And it's interesting to note how small the dining room is in comparison with this living room and loggia, that we can really imagine that their life centered around these spaces and the small card room that was located off of the living room.
So the Fascios personally decorated their home with antiques they found on their abroad trip to Europe during the summer. And it was very unique because they really took a softer approach to their interior design than the kind of dark Spanish look that was dominating the scene during that time. Eleanor wanted a softer look on the interior and really focused on Italian and French antiques. When researching for this episode, we really discovered the amount of work that Alexandra Fascio Taylor did in curating her father's collection. And she provided such intimate details on her father and her mother's life in the 1920s in Palm Beach. And it was so great to see her work compiled here at the Foundation and at the Historical Society.
Debbie Murray is the chief curator at the Historical Society of Palm Beach County, which holds the Maurice Fatio architectural collection. She knew Alexandra Fascio Taylor well and was able to really paint a picture of what his life was like during the 1920s.
So the Fascio collection came to us in a variety of ways. Alexandra Taylor, as I knew her, was Maurice and Eleanor's daughter, and she collected many items along the way, and she also helped the folks at the Historical Society, because this predates me, make sense of them. Because so often when we get photographs, they come in and they're not marked. You don't know which house they are or who the people are unless you do some research. And so she did an incredible amount of work for the Historical Society at the time. Most of the drawings came to us through another donator. Incredibly fascinating. Every time we open something to start doing more inventories, because we're constantly working on that, we find something even more incredible. We make more connections. And that's the whole point of having collections, is to make those connections. When you read about Maurice and his wife, Eleanor, his wife-to-be, Eleanor Chase, they had a charming love story and a tragic end. Miss Chase was brought up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. She was well educated, went to college, went to New York after college, where she became a member of the Algonquin Round Table and made numerous literary friends. She wrote poetry for the most part, and she used to love to leave little notes for her children when she and Maurice had to go off to a party, and she would leave them a little note so that they would read it in the morning about the evening before. And so the family had a lovely collection of poetry from her. But she gained most fame the year before she married Maurice in 1928, when one of her first book was published. As far as we know, Maurice met Eleanor here in Palm Beach, and they were friends at first. But she finally agreed to marry him after he'd been trying for a couple of years in 1929, and it was a pretty quick wedding. They got married in New York. Not even her mom was there. And in the Florida season, they were here in Palm Beach, and they were feted everywhere, especially the 29-30 season. They were going to card parties. They were going to brunches. They were going to parties at night. They were part of the Romani chorus groups that would get together at the Everglades Club every year. And their letters home, and Maurice's letters home, and when Eleanor started writing his parents, she always called Maurice's mom mama and his father papa. She would relate how tired they were, and both of them would relate how tired they were of going to all these parties and events. That's tiring if you think about it. If you've got to go to parties all day, when are you supposed to be on the job site? Architects, even though they do their drawings in an office, generally, they still have to oversee some of the events happening on a job site. So, and if you're not at the job site, you should be at the office, planning for the next house. So it was demanding on them mentally and physically. But if I were Eleanor, I'd want that office, because you can see the ocean. And, they didn't, in the 30s, they didn't have as much landscaping. They didn't have the manicured landscaping that we have today in the 1930s. When you look at those photographs from that period, you think that every photo is right after a hurricane, because it looks like a disaster area with their landscaping. It's very nice to be here, to think that this is the house that Alex came to when she was born. It would have been after, because she was born up north, and Petey was born here in Palm Beach. This is where the Fascios brought their children home to. It's a special place.
And even though there's so much written on how this was the home that they moved into as newlyweds, we know in retrospect that this was just one of the many properties that he constructed ultimately for sale. And that's something that was really common with a lot of the architects at the time, is that they would live in the buildings that they designed for short periods of time prior to sale.
We all know Meisner would build a house, live in it for a month, and sell it as well. And even Wyeth, in his own home at Trefontaine, put in 3 different ceiling models to bring clients in to showcase his skills. So we can see an architect is not just an architect, but he's also the salesman, he's the developer. He's really running an entire business during this boom time, and they must have put a lot of work and effort in to make it successful.
Maurice and Eleanor sold their home in 1932 to department store owner Franklin Simons. After selling the home, Maurice and Eleanor moved in with her mother and resided in the home until the completion of his next project in 1936. Next time on Landmarks Discovered, we'll visit another property that has a personal connection with Maurice Fatio.